Welcome into Pro Football Today. It's time for the post-game show here on SportsGrid TV with Kasey Hudson and Tom Vecchio. And what a Monday Night Football we have to unpack here, Tom. I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but I think this has been the most exciting primetime game that we've had so far. I mean, it kind of had all the things. You and I talked about it during halftime. So plenty to unpack here, but just initial thoughts and takeaways before we get rolling with the Bills versus the Jets. Bills take this one 23-20, so again, a lot to roll through. What'd you think, Tom?
Lack of scoring in the second half, which is obviously very different from what we saw in the first half. Just 6 total points in the second half. The game did end up hitting the over just by a few points. The first half, when we're looking here, 37 total points, this game is going to cruise into the 60s. It does hit the over. The Bills, they covered, depending on where you got them, is, -1, -1.5. You're safe there. So that's looking like that. Big win for the Bills in terms of the division, as Dave touched on right at the end of the pregame show. They were favorites. The Jets didn't pick up the win, so Bills continue there. A lot of players flew over their player props. That's something we can touch on. Josh Allen goes over his passing prop. Aaron Rodgers goes well over his passing prop. Huge game from Ray Davis. Huge game from Breece Hall, Lazard, Wilson. All these players are flying over. So ultimately, the Jets losing is important from their team, but they looked good on offense, right? Their defense was okay. They looked good on offense. And again, it was the first step with a new play caller, new coach. So as long as they can take some of the aspects from what they had today and move forward, I still think they have a shot to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, especially because at one point, I think it was one of the coaches' interviews, but you heard them say, we kind of need our defense to show up now. Now, to be fair, the defense is what's kept them in many of these games. So it's more so them finding the balance on both sides of the ball. Both sides have to show up in order for them to compete, and I think that they can get there. But of course, from a humorous standpoint, what's the first tweet I see when I open up my phone right before we start the post-game show? Who's Aaron Rodgers going to fire tonight? Do you think there's going to be any finger pointing, or do you think that they're going to find some sort of rhythm? Because, yes, a new play caller was at the helm. It takes a minute to kind of find that chemistry and that cadence, or do we think that we might see some spiraling here and some finger pointing?
No. They look good. That's Aaron Rodgers, 294. I would have to double check, but I think this is the most he's had this season. Breece Hall has over 100 yards on the ground. They couldn't convert when it comes to the red zone. They had multiple trips to the red zone where they settled for field goals. So when we're looking at this from a box score perspective, he throws the late pick, whatever it might be. If they convert some of those field goals, they win this game by double-digit points. They could have won this game 35, 34, whatever, to 23. So I think their offense is fine. They need to iron things out when it comes to the red zone, but I see no issues going forward. If Rodgers can throw the ball for nearly 300 yards and Breece Hall can have 100 yards on the ground, they're going to be in a spot to win any game, that as long as their defense holds things together. So there shouldn't be any finger pointing.
Yeah, they're in a perfect position for a 1-2 punch, and I'm glad you brought up the efficiency because there wasn't that massive of a margin between their efficiency and the Bills' efficiency. Obviously, the Bills picked up a little bit more, but the Jets walked away tonight with 33% third down efficiency. Red zone-wise, sitting 25%. This is where the margin obviously expands because the Bills were sitting at 75% with their red zone efficiency. So just a few minor adjustments there. Outside of that, of course, Josh Allen, 76% completion rate in comparison to Aaron Rodgers, 65.7, but most importantly, he hit 35 attempts. He had 294 passing yards, just the one interception, and no, not by Douglas, but still, with new things, with a lot of moving pieces, not a bad performance by the Jets. We'll see what comes down the bank there moving forward. What were you most impressed with when it comes to the Bills? My initial thought is their defense coming up strong in a number of plays. Allen closes out the night with 215 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and not a turnover. Ray Davis being the talk of the town, 97 yards on the ground through 20 carries, 55 receiving yards through 3 receptions. So that touchdown didn't come about, but he was definitely a key anchor in this game tonight. The turnover by Johnson, a couple of sacks delivered by the Bills defense, but I think that they are probably one of the stronger points of tonight's game, right?
Absolutely. Their defense and their running game. Ray Davis was awesome. That's what it comes down to. They have a good play calling scheme, good offensive line. He got the ball plenty. He broke off big plays. He brought in a deep reception. He essentially played the same role that James Cook plays. Maybe not that deep reception. Cook is coming out of the backfield on some wheel routes, but if Cook is going to miss any more time, we have a consistent option when it comes to the Bills offense, and that's going to be Ray Davis coming out of the backfield. So good stuff overall on both teams. And like we saw the kicker miss 2 field goals for the Jets. So if he makes those, the Jets win this game, and the conversation moving forward for the Jets would be completely different. You'd say, okay, they picked up the win, new coach, new play caller, everything, it's all sunny for the Jets if the kicker hits those 2 field goals. So I think we need to take everything in context tonight. I think the Bills are going to be fine. I think the Jets are going to be fine.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, the kicks would have come in handy, that's for sure. But that's what makes football so great, and especially close matchups just like this one. Now, props-wise, because we mentioned the fact that both of these teams are going to be fine, and we've seen some versatility. We've seen some depth now. So props-wise, did this game kind of open your eyes to anything that you'd probably be gauging moving forward?
No. I spoke about Brees Hall over 13 and a half rushing attempts. He ended with 18. There was some coach speak in the week that they wanted to, commit to the run game, and that's what we saw. I was on Josh Allen over 197 and a half passing yards. He ends with 215. I was also on Wilson under 60 yards. He ends with 107. So wrong there, but hit 2 out of 3 props. When it comes to the same game parlay, hit 2 out of 3 legs. Didn't nail the Braylon Allen one. I would say things were largely in line with what I was expecting. It was going to be a big Brees Hall game on the ground. That's exactly what we got from him. We're going to see a good amount of passing from Josh Allen, which we did see. And again, I said on the pregame, I wouldn't be surprised if both of the quarterbacks had the over on 1.5 passing touchdowns, which they did, and would be efficient games from both of them. 19 of 25, that is, for Josh Allen with 215 in the air. That's a pretty efficient game. They got it done with Ray Davis. I think Ray Davis is the guy to trust moving forward.
I think it would be exciting to see him have a larger role moving forward, but probably something else to give some props to is the fact that Josh Allen has found a bit more discipline, I would say. I mean, in this game, if you really look at the typical script being Josh Allen, we would have at least seen, 1 turnover, and we would have seen at least 40 rushing yards. We did get the rushing touchdown, but disciplined Josh Allen says a lot about where this Bills team can go, and obviously where they're the front runners in the division at the moment. So aside from the kicks and how that would have changed the tally here, is that probably something fans have something to look forward to, and then probably consistent props to jump on, knowing that Josh Allen's not going to be as much of a wild card as we've seen in the previous seasons?
Yeah, you would ultimately, if it was up to me, Josh Allen wouldn't be running the ball at all. He needs to protect himself. He had the hand injury earlier in the year. Go back over the past 2 seasons, we've seen him pick up injuries because he's running, because he's diving for the pylon, diving for first downs, whatever it might be. And then ultimately that hampers him in a certain capacity. So when they get to the 2, do they want to go with a quarterback sneak or a 1-yard quarterback sneak? Sure, but Josh Allen should not be running and diving all over the place. So I would like to take Josh Allen unders on rushing props, because that really shouldn't be his role. They need to protect him for the stretch run of the season. If Cook comes back, that's great. You have Ray Davis. You have multiple running backs that can run the ball. Protect your quarterback. Stop telling him to run the ball.
Yeah, it was exciting at first, but now in order to help his team pull through, he's got to make sure that his health is the forefront of that focus. And I'm pretty sure he had one of the longest and biggest passes of his career thus far, even though the play got called back because of a flag. I think one of his offensive linemen jumped the line there. But outside of that, we know that he has the arm. We know that he has got the connections with his teammates. And then regardless of who his target is, Allen finds a way to find them. So I agree, as much as I love seeing him and I loved leaning towards those rushing props, it's not something that I have to do. And if he comes in consistently like he did tonight with the numbers that he hit tonight, I'm all for under on the rushing props, because I'm sure the books will probably still want him to use his legs. They'll probably still insist that it's going to take place, because that's what we've known and seen so far. But this could be a slightly new era for Josh Allen. More for us to get to, though, here on Pro Football Today. Hits the post-game show with Kasey Hudson and Tom Vecchio as we run through this Monday Night Madness and start previewing the games ahead. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us on the other side of this break.
right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all season long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're sliding DiVincenzo to the one, obviously Terrence Shannon Jr., that is actually dynamic offensively and defensively. So we'll see how it works. I think it's a little bit of a work in progress. Do both teams win? Yes. I don't think at the end of the day Minnesota could have afforded to keep Cat, Rudy, and Ant with that amount of money.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
Welcome back into Pro Football Today. It's the post-game show here on SportsGrid TV with Kasey Hudson and Tom Vecchio running through the Monday night matchup between the Bills and the Jets. Bills come out on top 23-20. Was a little nervous for some overtime there, but probably one of the most exciting primetime games that we've gotten in a hot minute here. So we don't have any further final thoughts with this exciting game. Rodgers, 294 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then you got Josh Allen, 215 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Big game from Ray Davis. Reliable plays from Kincaid. Most importantly, a lot of weapons showed up for the Jets. Lazard, 114 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Garrett Wilson, 107 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. And then Breece Hall did it all. 113 on the ground and then went for 56 in the air. So a lot to look forward to from both of these teams. But we've got some other football to get prepared for. You know that the Pro Football pregame party will be back Thursday here on SportsGrid TV. We got to preview some Broncos. We got to preview some Saints. And I got to give the Saints some credit. I mean, with third stringers in, they tried to give the Bucs a run for their money, almost snuck in there. So a lot can happen in this matchup with the Broncos. So let's jump right into it. Tom, what do you think we're going to see out of this Thursday night matchup?
We're going to see probably a lack of scoring because 36.5 over-under is pretty light. 1.5 point spread in favor of the Broncos, the road Broncos, that is. Obviously, the storylines for this, Sean Payton returning to New Orleans. I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends 17-10. And I've said that before, but this time I mean it, because Spencer Rattler, while he looked good, and I spoke about him, relatively highly last night when we did some of the recaps, we know that Chris Olave did not finish the game against the Bucs. He also was listed as a did not practice today. Concussion, short week, him being evaluated, yet to be seen. Rashid Shaheed, according to Ian Rappaport, is dealing with a knee injury that is quote unquote very concerning. 2 best weapons in the pass catching game without Kamara are now highly in question for Thursday. We have a third string quarterback. What we see from the Saints on offense could be a big mystery, and it could be a big Kamara game. But the Broncos defense has been at least somewhat solid through the majority of the season, not necessarily last week versus the Chargers. On the other side, the Broncos offense was a complete disaster last week with Bo Nix at the helm. What we see from this game, we need to wait for injury updates. If we see a lack of scoring, an absolute snooze fest, I'm not going to be surprised. This is maybe one of the worst Thursday night games we do all year.
I know. Well, when you put it that way, Tom, I'm glad we had this game and this Monday night matchup to at least kick off the week, because Yeah, I don't know what we're going to get out of that one. And even if some of these guys come up healthy, they're pretty banged up. So still, I mean, rep protection or how long they're going to be able to last in these games if they tend to overuse them. So there's just too many questions coming into play. A little messy on both ends regardless. But something that might be a little less messy just because of the excitement around the Drake May era. We got another 9:30 game. Jaguars stayed over across the pond, but you got the Patriots versus the Jags spread opening up at 5.5, total sitting at 42.5. What do we make of this one?
I think this is going to be a big Tank Bigsby game, and there's some injury concerns with Travis Etienne for the Jaguars. So Tank Bigsby, who has been legit good for the Jags, I think is a player that we can trust when it comes to the Pats. The stats out there from Drake May after yesterday's game were awesome. He had 3 passing touchdowns, and prior to that, to this point in the season, prior to yesterday's game, the Pats had a total of 2 passing touchdowns from Jacoby Brissett. So Drake May is absolutely the answer for the Pats. Do I like the Jags at -5.5? No. I'm simply not laying points with the Jags, a team that has been a complete disaster. Do I kind of like the Pats at +5.5? Do I think Drake May can go out there and have at least 2 touchdowns against this dreadful defense? I do. Who do those touchdowns go to? I don't know, because there aren't too many consistent passing options, at least to this point in the season, because the Pats haven't been doing much passing with Jacoby Brissett. Could we look to Polk maybe? Sure. Could we look to Hunter Henry? Probably that might be the safest answer when it comes to the Pats when they're pass catching options. We also need a note, will Ramondre Stevenson play? Because he did not play in their most recent game. It was Antonio Gibson starting the backfield. Will Stevenson even travel with the team? That's something we need to get an update on as well. So Jags, Evan Ingram, Pats, probably Antonio Gibson, then probably Hunter Henry.
That's a good way to put that. I'm right there with you, though. I believe May can get the job done. We did see some good things out of him from preseason. He had some extra time and space to kind of get in that playbook and those extra reps at practice, and clearly they would have held the reins to him if they didn't think he was had the possibility of making some success. But most importantly, it's just the fact that they're going up against a team that's just, as you put it, dreadful. This is probably one of the top games circled on my calendar, but there is a massive NFC North matchup coming down the pipelines. But we got to talk about Texans versus Packers, spread at 2.5, total at 47.5. And what a powerful game I think this one is going to be. We saw Diggs just have a big game, the return of Mixon, Watson play his role properly with the Packers. I mean, which way do we even lean in this one?
I think the answer would be to take the Texans, especially if they do move to 3 points. That would be certainly a spot that I want to buy in. Like, outside of Nico Collins, who's on IR for the Texans, both teams are essentially at full health. This is an awesome matchup. Like, this is one of the games of the week with 2 young quarterbacks that are absolutely awesome. Again, outside of Collins, they have all the weapons around them that we possibly want to see. Dobbs returned last week after a suspension for the Packers. We have 2 great running backs on both sides, multiple viable options. I think the play is probably the over, and especially if the Texans move to 3 points, that's the spot that I'll look to take them. I think they're live on the money line. It's like the Packers have been great, but they're also matched up against an equally great team in the Texans. So take the Texans at +3, take them on the money line. I think this game's going to have a lot of points. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. And before we cut to break, because you mentioned the 2 dynamic quarterbacks, and we also talked about the fact that Stroud probably didn't have his strongest performance this previous weekend. Are those some props that we can maybe favorably think that he's going to up the ante competing against a Packers team and going toe-to-toe with a Jordan Love?
I would say so. Like his numbers weren't flashy versus the Pats because he didn't have to be. Like, they were dealt with some short field, so he picked up 3 touchdowns. I think he was held to 192 yards, if I remember correctly. Joe Mixon had 100-plus on the ground. Damian Pierce had that 56-yard run. So I'm on board with both quarterbacks being awesome.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. Well, don't go anywhere, SportsGrid fans, because we got a little bit more to unpack on the other side of this quick break. It's Pro Football Today, the post-game show with Kasey and Tom. Stick with us on the other side of this quick break.
right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, Dom?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're sliding DiVincenzo to the one, obviously Terrence Shannon Jr., that is actually dynamic offensively and defensively. So we'll see how it works. I think it's a little bit of a work in progress. Do both teams win? Yes. I don't think at the end of the day Minnesota could have afforded to keep Cat, Rudy, and Ant with that amount of money.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I do think they come back, and I think they win this game, but they've got to do it decisively. I think they've got to get that confidence back because they went out there, and like I said earlier, Kentucky almost beat Georgia. Kentucky almost did beat Ole Miss, and I think what you're going to see in this conference, if you don't play well and you're a top 10 team in the SEC, you're going to get knocked out by one of those top 25 teams in the SEC if you're not ready to play.
Powered by SportsGrid.
Back at it with Pro Football Today. It's the post-game show with Kasey Hudson and Tom Vecchio here on SportsGrid TV. Last rally of the night, but don't forget you can catch me and Tom with Adam and Dave for the pre-game show for Pro Football Today on Thursday. So make sure you're staying tuned with us here on SportsGrid TV throughout the entire week. We're talking about a matchup that we both probably have circled on our calendars, Texans versus the Packers. Two exciting QBs going head-to-head, but also some dynamic weapons on both rosters. So very excited for that one coming in hot. I'm just going to jump to the next exciting game because Detroit Lions versus the Minnesota Vikings. This is the game to look at. 2.5 on the spread, 49.5 with the total, and I just don't even know where to start with matching this up. You got the Lions coming off of a massive win over the Cowboys, the unfortunate loss of Hutchinson, but I think you and I agree on the fact that while it's going to be a painful loss for the Lions, it's not really going to change too much for them. They still have a lot of formidable pieces to get the job done on their end. And then the Minnesota Vikings, I mean, one of the largest talks of the NFL thus far, coming in hot of this season. Sam Darnold finally maybe finding his fit in a system. Jones and company just being so dynamic. So where do we start with this one, Tom?
I think the Vikings, deservedly so, are slight favorites. We've got to remember that they're coming off a bye. The week prior, they were in London facing the Jets. So fully rested, fully ready to go. Lions are coming off a big win, obviously suffering a loss with Aiden Hutchinson, as you said. I think initially the play is the under at 49.5. Obviously, people want to see points. They want to see these great offenses get out there. This is a divisional matchup. This is a divisional matchup of two teams that are neck and neck, and they're going to be here to the end point of the season. It's a huge game when it comes to, they have an extra division win. I think both of these teams can pick up wins over the Bears. While the Bears are looking good, I still think both of these teams are better. So they're going to pick up each winning against the Bears. I think the division could come down to one game, which is not something that we often say. So 49.5, I like the under on that. I will be willing to play a live over at 40, 41.5, somewhere around there, trying to find a middle, which isn't always for everyone. It's not something everyone's comfortable with, but something I'm certainly going to be looking into because I do think this game will be close. I will also be looking to take the Lions live if they do fall behind, plus 6.5, somewhere around there. So a lot of close stuff in this game. I think we're going to see a big Amon-Ra St. Brown game. He was a little bit slow in their most recent outing. He didn't have to do a lot just because everyone else was putting up points. And then, it's Justin Jefferson on the other side. Keep it simple as possible.
Yeah, that's true. I'm excited to see your coverage when it comes to the live lines and some of the things that you throw out there because I think those are some big points. But an exciting game nonetheless. Can't wait to see who comes out on top. Now, it might not be circled with the Texans and the Packers or the Lions and the Vikings, but I think this could be equally as good of a game. You've got the Seahawks taking on the Falcons. Spread sitting at 2.5 here, but the total sitting at 49.5 as well. We've seen some quality stuff out of the Seahawks for the most part, but it's the Falcons that might have a little bit more to prove here. But regardless, I think this one can be a bit fun. Which way would you kind of lean when it comes to this matchup?
I like the Falcons, and frankly, I'm a little surprised that they're only 2.5-point home favorites. I would expect it to be a little more. You know, the Seahawks are reeling right now, right? They have a loss to the Lions 3 weeks ago, a loss to the Giants when they're 7.5 or 8.5-point favorites, and a loss to the 49ers. 3 straight losses. Meanwhile, the Falcons are only trending upward, right? Slow start to the season. And they're only trending upward. Their offense is only getting better. Yes, they beat the Panthers last week. Take that for what you will. But a solid game overall. They Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier both nearly went for 100 yards. They are moving. I'm not sure why the Falcons are only 2.5-point home favorites when the Seahawks have been bad over the past 3 weeks and the Falcons have been good. So I will take the Falcons time and time again in this spot.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Falcons. I guess maybe some of the cushion is what the Seahawks tend to pull off in the second half of games. I mean, if anybody's looking at live stuff, they've just found ways to rally and pick up points in the third quarter there, but probably not anything worth betting too much on. We got less than a minute, but I'm going to quickly just throw this one at you. Eagles, Giants, 3 on the spread, 43.5. We saw Sirianni have some words and some drama, but where would you take the lines on this one?
Under. Giants probably live. If the Eagles get out to a slow start, I would take the Giants at +7 if the Eagles score first, whatever it might be, but under in this game.
Under, it shall be. A lot of good games coming down this slate, honestly, but that's probably the best part of us getting into we're getting so close to the halfway point of the season, so it just gets better and better. We're already seeing some line movement when it comes to the Jets versus the Steelers, so keep all your coverage with us here on SportsGrid TV. But as for tonight's Monday Night Madness, it's a wrap for Tom Vecchio and myself, Kasey Hudson. Thank you so much for joining us for the Pro Football Today pregame show, and then in-game live with Kevin, Joe, and Donnie, and then most importantly, closing your night out with Tom and myself. We will catch you guys on Thursday for the pregame show. Have a good night.